In some nations, it is strictly forbidden to think and talk about death. It is believed that in this way a person flirts with her. It's better to keep quiet. And still, as Khayyam wrote, we will leave without a trace, and not one has returned from there. A person really wants to know what lies ahead and plans his future. But what awaits him in the final is scary and frightening. Why? The difficulty is that consciousness can accept anything except its own absence. If we live, there is no death. If we die, we will be gone. But how do you know what is not there? Or is it there, but there is no researcher himself? You can want to be happy and rich, but not to be. Everyone succeeds in death. No need to prepare for it. Everything will happen by itself. The world will be the same, but without us. This irreversibility scares a person. First, philosophers with a rich imagination, and then scientists began to talk seriously about life after life. There is no evidence, only an insistent desire that it should be so. There is a good reason for this. A person cannot accept that everything has to end. The strongest instinct in life forces us to look for a way out of a dead end, and the mind generates pictures in which we exist in spite of everything. If it is impossible to stop the natural course of events, then you need to come up with a new form of existence and come to terms with it. There are people who harass relatives with tantrums, and there are those who work until the last day and meet the end credits with humility and calmness. They talk about some of them. He left prematurely. I could have done so much more. And about the others, he left correctly and on time. Death is the last point in the story of personality. We immerse ourselves in the hustle and bustle of the days and remember that life is finite only when it takes away our loved ones. And even at such moments, not all of us think about the last hour. This is not a reason for sadness and tears. It is an occasion to cheer yourself up, encourage you to act and think, an occasion to see the connection between yourself and all of humanity, the world, to feel the endless movement of the universe, and to understand that you, a small part, are involved in its improvement. Because a person who feels his body, his emotions, needs, desires, knows what he lives for. He makes plans for life, looking for ways to meet his needs. And those people who are next to him are not the meaning of his life, but his companions in life. There is an opinion that the immortality of man is a fiction of priests and legislators. Allegedly, this belief was instilled in people because of selfish goals or in order to keep them from evil deeds. However, history itself denies such an assumption. This was stated by philosophers more than a century ago. Many of them devoted themselves to finding the answer to the question, what is a person's posthumous fate? Based on the facts, the authors of these works explain why the belief in immortality is not fiction or self-deception. These facts are very serious, and one cannot disagree with them. Some note the version that the belief in life after death was invented by legislators or priests, since the peoples who had neither the first nor the second also believed in their immortality. Others name another hypothesis of the origin of the belief in immortality. It arose because everyone loves life and rejects death. That's why we invented immortality for ourselves and believed in it. However, this version can also be classified as untenable. After all, each of us loves not the afterlife, but the earthly one. Moreover, life in another world often seems more painful to a person than life on earth. This is exactly how the Babylonians and the inhabitants of Egypt saw the afterlife. And the ancient Greeks believed that it was better to serve a poor plowman than to reign in the world of the dead. The next version of the origin of the belief in immortality is connected with our dreams. Our ancestors, who saw themselves in a dream at work, hunting, talking with other people, concluded that a person has an invisible double that can separate from the body during sleep. And this very doppelganger continues to live when the time comes to leave his earthly existence forever. This version is also supplemented by cases when a sleeping person sees the dead in his dreams, who appear to the dreamer as ghosts or shadows, while performing some actions or uttering some words. These facts are very serious, and one cannot disagree with them. Finally, the belief in immortality is based on our inner sense of the indestructibility of our consciousness. It is easy to imagine oneself dead, but it will not be possible to imagine our conscious self destroyed, no matter how hard we try. These facts indicate that mental life exists. It remains only to answer one more equally important question. What is the source of this spiritual life? If the body is the carrier of our soul source, then there can be no question of immortality. It will be possible only if our soul is in some special beginning and exists outside the body. However, our soul is always with us. Moreover, the soul is a mentally alive person himself, and he is unable to get rid of the soul even for a moment to see the differences between life with a soul and life without it. How can we understand whether our mental life is produced by the physical body? According to theologians, if the source of our soul is the body, then in this case, mental and bodily development should take place in parallel throughout life. In childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, our mental and bodily forces work and develop almost in parallel. They gradually grow, open up, and finally blossom. However, the closer old age gets, the more violations there are in this parallelism. In adulthood, our physical strength stops developing, but still stays at the same level. And at the same time, the spiritual life is improving. We gain new knowledge, our life experience becomes richer, and our moral personality is revealed better and better. With the onset of old age, the differences between mental and physical life become even more pronounced. In order to clearly distinguish the soul from the body, one should also pay attention to the moral struggle that goes on inside a person. If a person were only a body, then his needs would be satisfied with the satisfaction of the needs of the body. However, there is an inner man in us who does not allow us to surrender to the desires of the flesh, which are repugnant to this inner man. The body cannot be ashamed. Only an immaterial inner spirit, which knows the laws of goodness, can be ashamed. Every person is empirically convinced that there are two laws in force in him that are opposed to each other. This is the law of the flesh and the law of the inner man. The tragedy of our life is that our inner man is weak enough and does not always know how to successfully resist the urges of the flesh. It follows from this that our mental life is not accomplished by the body, but by an immaterial principle independent of it, the soul. It is our soul, not our body, that strives for eternal life, because this is exactly the kind of life it is destined for.